Many politicians often do talk about the idea of what their life will be after Parliament. Will they be remembered as a good politician? Did they do anything good? Was there anything about their time in Parliament or with the time where they were a minister that they will be remembered for? And leaving a legacy for some people is maybe not their first choice when they go into an office or things like this. But David Cameron is someone whose legacy really is not going to be good, because obviously he comes in the coalition government and institutes austerity. When the Conservatives win a majority, he doubles down on austerity even more, making, as many people have said now, and I think that very recently there was a really good academic paper which showed you where austerity has hit hardest. That's where people voted for Brexit even more. And it's a really interesting academic correlation between the areas that have been most hardest hit by austerity to eventually it being delivered by Brexit, something else which will be an integral part of his legacy. But now, of course, Cameron has been brought back out of the cold into being sort of the Foreign Office. And you now have to ask the question, at this really crucial time where in the world there is a lot of bad stuff, and I say, bad stuff, but, genocides, etc., going on at the moment, creating an actual positive legacy for David Cameron couldn't actually be more easier. He just actually has to have the will and the political connections, which he does, to be able to do it. Now, the question of will he be able to do this, or is this the direction that he will be able to sort of go in and steer the Tory party to saying, actually, yes, supporting Ukraine is of vital importance, and it's something that we should be focusing on, is something that David Cameron should probably be bringing up first and foremost in his mind. And this is where we have to bring up the absolutely fantastic piece by Peter Parmentier, I think that's how you say it, where he brought up, David Cameron has a possible path to redemption by, delivering critical weapons to Ukraine. And it's not just about, making sure that weapons deliveries are, going to Ukraine, and that they are going to and arriving in Ukraine on time so that the Ukrainians can know, excellent, we've got this much supplies coming this month, we know this much supplies coming this month. So it gives them more opportunities to plan offensives, to say where critical supplies are needed most, to make sure that they can, plan for the future, not just go, well, we know that this aid package is coming and this is how long we've got this aid package for. But you've got a moment, as we've said, in America, hopefully, again, fingers crossed, next year, the Republicans are going to sort of relent and allow that Ukrainian aid package to be voted on the floor. You've also got the fact that in Europe at the moment, Viktor Orban has just single-handedly held up a massive EU, aid package. So this isn't just a case of weapons. It is about financial support, not just militarily, but economically as well. And this is where David Cameron, and I fully agree with this piece, this could be David Cameron's biggest chance at redemption if he took it. Because you have a guy who continuously just made continuous screw up after screw up, saying, I'm doing everything A-OK, and then launched us into a Brexit referendum to try and settle an internal dispute within the Tory party, to which he failed and then resigned and then rode off into the distance so that he didn't have to deal or clean up the mess he had made, or even have the backbone. Because this is what a lot of people have said before. David Cameron could have come out on that morning after and gone, right, We understand that there is a significant pushback against the EU. However, we feel that this, result is not really strong enough to really leave the EU, considering, remember, not only did they not meet a constitutional majority, but also they won by 2%. So the idea that this was, quote, going to settle the whole issue, as we have seen even now with, British Chamber of Commerce calling for, doing side deals with the EU, to businesses crying out against the government saying, hey, we want back in, to the disruption that is currently going on with the Northern Ireland government, to the huge other disruptions that are going to be caused next year as well, to the fact that Canada has just that EU rollover deal, they've just now ended that at the start of this coming year. Like I say, David Cameron's legacy is not one that is going to be remembered, shall we say, with fondness by many people. But honestly, I do say this, honestly, David Cameron has an honest chance at redemption. And he could do that. But he has to rally. He has to rally Europe to be able to deliver a constant and critical supply of weapons to Ukraine. And then this is where we need to finish the job as well. Because Europe needs to come together and really start now tightening the screws of the sanctions, because the sanctions are working. There's a lot of people out there who go, oh, the sanctions aren't working. No, Russia's economy is taking a massive tacking because of this. And now is the time more than ever to put the screws on them, to make sure that critical technology isn't going to get to them, that their supply chains aren't going to be that overly reliable, to use diplomacy to places like India and Iran to sort of cut off the supply of weapons going from there, to even go to China to stop any potential, supplies or weaponry going from China to Russia as well. Using diplomacy is a good way, to using overt and even sabotage potential measures to also to stop the supply chains, to going after those companies that still defy the sanctions regimes and operate in Russia. This could be something David Cameron could do and actually leave, and if he did this, if he generally did this, and I say this now, you could look at David Cameron and say, as a prime minister, David Cameron was an absolute disaster from start to finish. He came in, brought in austerity, and then resigned because he lost the Brexit referendum, one of which was meant to be to solve an internal dispute within the Tory party, which went on to affect the UK for, dot, dot, dot. But we could then maybe turn around and actually go, well, actually, even though he was a really awful and terrible prime minister, when it came to him being, the minister for foreign policy and at the Foreign Office, he was actually quite good, especially when it came to Ukraine, because, he secured Ukrainian weapon supply routes. He rallied the European countries to help support not only militarily with weaponry, but also economically as well, with economic aid to Ukraine. And then he tightened the sanctions regimes, which ended up causing Russia to go, bankrupt and causing an economic crisis in Russia, which meant that they could no longer really pursue the war in an effective manner because they couldn't get supplies to the front line. All I'm saying is, look, if he did that, if he actually did that, then David Cameron might be somewhat redeemable as a politician. And part of me that does believe that there might be a bit of hope in this, of course, is that you have seen Tory politicians really get like the need to win in Ukraine. That the need to win in Ukraine is a vital one, is a national security issue one. And I think if David Cameron was brave enough to really go after this, to really rally the Tories, there is a good chance his reputation, maybe as a prime minister, won't be salvaged, but as someone who led the Foreign Office, maybe, maybe there could generally be a chance at somewhat of redemption. Yes, there were all the rumors, of course, about the pig, but I'll tell you what, he did really F Putin. So, maybe we might get a Christmas miracle on this. But will he do that? That's the $1 million question. Potentially, of course, with only 6 months left. We hope. In government, this is something that David Cameron could do. It's something that he could definitely achieve within those 6 months. He should probably maybe make an attempt to try and restore or at least redeem his reputation in some way or form. Will he? I doubt it. But definitely something probably, Mr. Cameron should probably consider. But like I say, I do recommend also this article in The Guardian as well. Really, really good. Really spells out the ways that David Cameron could go and help and do all these. And like I say, it's all infinitely doable within the next 6 months. So go give that a read if you want to sort of read more into that. But of course, as always, until then, like I say, hope you had a very Merry Christmas. And of course, we're coming up to a new year. So that means the review of the new year is coming up. That means, of course, Patreon members and Pony Club members, you will gain access to that. So those links are down below if you would like to join that. And of course, there is the YouTube thank you button. And of course, there's the Buy Me Coffee link as well. So as always, until next time, we'll see you all very soon.